Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar on tested strategies to build SNF, Rehab, and AL Census. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website early next week if you'd like to refer to it after the session. I'm Chris Carruthers, Vice President of Health Services Marketing at Levin Company, and I work directly with our health services clients across the country, specializing only in the SNF, Rehab, and assisted living census. And so what I'll be talking about today are some tried and true strategies that we have used in our client settings, and I'll be sharing those with you through the next hour. So the fundamental strategies and tactics will be really focusing on those adult, child, and prospect expectations and how we meet those expectations. Adult children are such a driving force in decision-making with our SNF and assisted living and even rehab prospects. How to build those relationships with referral sources, and then finally the tactical outreach plan and marketing plan development. Let's first talk about the expectations. And since many of you on the phone, I would imagine maybe at that point where they could be looking for someone to move a loved one or moving a loved one to a retirement community, just stop and think a minute what you would look for when you would choose a place for your loved one. When I meet with focus groups of adult children in client settings, we often have a list of questions so we can learn information about what they're looking for when they would move a loved one. And the number one answer from adult children is the lifestyle. Maybe a little bit surprising to many of you because the quality of care used to be number one, but now the expectation is that the quality is measured consistently based on what's changed with the government regulations. And so now their focus is really on the lifestyle. There's more attention on the decor and flexible meal times and then outdoor living space options. So really trying to meld what they have, what their loved one has really experienced in their home and trying to make that more consistent with their lifestyle when they would move. This used to be what would happen with an independent living prospect, but now it's really gotten to where this is an expectation for all levels of living, not just independent living. And we're seeing that consistently shared with our adult children focus groups. So let's talk about what some of the adult child expectations are. They want to know how their mom or dad will spend their day. What are they going to be doing? How much of the day is going to be occupied with formatted activities? How much time will they really have to socialize? What are they doing within the walls of the building? How much time are they spending outside? What about the quality of care? How long does it really take someone to respond to a call button? And are they getting healthy food? Is the menu, is there a variety in the menu choices? So how would my loved one really meet other people? Because everyone's really apprehensive about moving to a new community. And so the adult child is very nervous about how they're going to interact and meet new friends and be introduced to people who have similar interests. They want to know how easy it is to reach a caregiver, what activities can they enjoy with their loved one, and what are the customization options for the apartment. So what are the prospect expectations? So we hear that they really look for the quality of care. They want to make sure that someone is taking care of them. With this level of care, you've got needs. Assisted living, you've got some initial needs. SNF, you've got a lot more needs. And even with rehab, you're looking to heal and go back to home as soon as you can. They're expecting the food to be good. They want to talk with people for the most part. There are some people, obviously, who are not going to be as social. And they want to know, what about family time? Can I invite my family in for meals? Can I leave for family outings? And, you know, still in this generation, not everyone has a cell phone. So they want to know where the phone is and how can a family member contact me. And this really applies to some communities where you just have that phone still at the nursing station. Many are moving away from that, but there is still a problem with loved ones trying to contact a family member. And we really have to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And more people want to bring a desk. You know, a lot of, when you think about assisted living and rehab and skilled nursing, you don't think about someone really being on their computer in their apartment. A lot of communities just have like a special room with computers, but with the way technology is today, and especially in the next several years, we're going to need to think about having an option and enough room for a desk. And then obviously, do you provide wireless? I mean, that's an expectation almost anywhere we go now. So this is an example of what someone might be moving from in their current home setting. So take a minute to think about what their lifestyle would be like when they're moving from assisted living or to skilled nursing or to your rehab. These are the things that many people, maybe even your private pay prospects you're trying to get for your SNF, are used to in their homes. And they've had the money to really afford the luxuries that they've enjoyed. And so why, when you show them one of your apartments, would they really expect to be comfortable in a setting like this? And I realize that many communities have made upgrades. Some communities are able to really dig into a big renovations project. But for those that are not, for example, this community, they've made some upgrades. And when you look at a room, it still looks like this. The furniture doesn't match. It doesn't feel warm. There's that old bulletin board on the wall that no one needs. You've got things in the hallways. And I can tell you in our own homes, we don't trip around equipment and linen carts in our hallways. You've got clutter sitting around. This is an area that people were invited to sit and watch TV that's kind of been used as a storage area. The bathrooms are old. And again, I'm not saying that all your communities haven't made steps to really change the way this looks and feels, but it's so hard to get past the first impression when you have these kind of things to look at. So how can we really start talking to people about making the move? And what I'm finding is when I meet with a lot of admissions personnel, they have that order taker mentality, especially with skilled nursing, where they just feel like there's someone who has a need. I will take the person from the hospital, I'll make sure they get moved in, and that's my job. Now for assisted living, many people have been trained to really do the discovery, listen more to the story. But you know, not everyone who's looking at assisted living now has that immediate need to move. The process has become much longer. The adult child is getting involved in the process, and they're doing their homework before they even bring a loved one to your community. So we really need to nurture those leads and really shift our mindset from being an order taker to really being a proactive strategist. Let the person tell their story. Do some discovery to find out what they enjoy in their life, what's really important to them that they would like to keep consistent when they're making a move. You need to build that relationship to relate their needs to your lifestyle. And with any prospect you're working with, overcoming those objections. And I think the follow-up and closing I see has been the most difficult with people who are working with assisted living prospects because, like I said, the time frame has really extended to be longer. So there's much more of a need, just like the independent living, for that follow-up in order to close that deposit, that sale. So gone are the days when you could just have someone come in, show them around, and then wait for them to get back with you and choose their assisted living apartment and move in. You've got to really follow up, keep that relationship going, and stay in touch with the adult child as well as the prospect. And then one thing I'm seeing, this is especially related to the SNF, each community has their own admissions process. So you've got a heavy stream of electronic referrals coming through from your hospitals, and you're trying to manage those referrals each day to really see which are kind of like the cream of the crop, which patients from the hospital do you really want to really work to try and get. That's the first step. But then after that, how long is it taking you to respond to the hospitals? You know, they're wanting to see like a 15 to 30 minute response time. And I know a lot of people that we work with have to go through a very stringent process for admissions, and it could take up to 3 hours. I'm not saying that that would not be appropriate if you have someone who's kind of iffy, maybe one of your more acute referrals, but using like a red, green, yellow kind of system where you have parameters of patients who fall within these parameters are good for green, we can take them. The yellow are kind of, if we need more conversation, the red we know we're not going to accept. So just keep that in mind about how you're seen to the referral sources if your admission approval process is a barrier. So we talked a little bit about discovery and how important it is to really understand who you're working with to move to your community. I'm not saying this just specifically for assisted living. It's important for skilled nursing and rehab too, because you really want them to feel like they're going to enjoy their stay, whether it's just for a few weeks or it's for the rest of their years here on earth. So you have to really understand the lifestyle they've had. Don't assume that someone who's moving for long-term care doesn't want a rewarding lifestyle when they move. I mean, they're not moving there just to lie in a bed or sit in a wheelchair at the nursing station or near the dining room. There are a lot of long-term residents who can really benefit from more brain stimulation and some interactive socialization. And I really am saddened to see when I do my assessment visits that more often than not, there are people who are just kind of existing and not really living in the skilled nursing areas. And adult children will have different expectations for their loved one too. They're going to want to know, what are they doing all day and how are they being cared for? So as this whole kind of shift from moving from your home, which is still the number one competitor for even skilled nursing and assisted living, because if people can afford to provide services in their home, they're going to hang on to that house and that lifestyle as long as they can before they make a move, because they want to relate what they have to what they can expect. They don't want to share a room with someone. They want to have some decor choices in their apartment. Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they live in a space that feels like home? Why would they want to live in a place where you have rubber gloves in the bathrooms and 3 different soap dispensers on the wall, and everything that looks so clinical is not what they're really accustomed to in their own home. So in talking about that enhanced lifestyle, one thing I really see a lot of, this is one of those tested strategies, is the activities team, whatever you want to call that now, and activity is still a word we all know, but many people are looking toward like life enrichment, life enhancement, tend to really stay in kind of the same rut when they're looking at what they offer residents in these levels of living. And they may give you excuses when you challenge them, like, well, the residents don't really want that. We've asked them, they don't want it. They don't really ever give it a try to really know that it's not something that they couldn't really take advantage of when they offer a new program. So I would challenge you all to really push them to think outside the box they've been in for a long time, to think about more brain fitness and how people can have more outdoor experience. It's just sad to think that there are people who are living in our communities that may not have fresh air on their face in weeks or a month or however long it may be. So there are ways you can offer volunteers in the community to help with that long process of getting someone out of their room and outside. So think more strategically about that. Another way to show you have an enhanced lifestyle is to certify your team. And I gave an example here for memory care. The Tapestry program is just one example. But when you take the time to make sure that your team has been certified in a way to really care for your residents, it's going to set you apart from your competition. And it's going to show that you really have that customer focus, that person-centered attitude about you. And that's going to help you stand out. And one thing I also do when I visit is I jump right in that bed that the nursing resident would lay in. And I see if the pillow crackles, I see if the mattress crackles, I pay attention to how the sheets feel, and I can tell you the majority of the time it's not a pleasant experience. So if you can even just upgrade your linens a little bit, make sure there's a comfortable blanket on the bed. Many of them don't even have a nice heavy blanket. You've got your bedspread, a little blanket, and a sheet. Can you do away with your clinical pillows? One of my communities has just switched to providing regular pillows for the residents, and when they're staying, they throw them away and they get a new one. It's not a big cost, but it's so important for making sure they have that good sleep experience, because a good night's sleep makes such a difference in how they'll spend their next day. And then when I talk about a mobile model, I'm referring here to skilled nursing. So since the beds turn over so fast, since the rooms turn over so fast, it's hard to really have a model set up for your skilled nursing. But what you can do is have a room or two that's always prepared and ready with the bed made and the furniture all matching, and have like a plastic container where you just take things on a mobile basis from room to room as they turn over. Maybe it's a mirror on the wall, a lamp on the end table, some soft, warming kind of a blanket on the bed, a throw on the bed, things that make it feel warm like you would do for your assisted living or your independent living model. It needs to feel comfortable and look comfortable. So I talked earlier about culture change and what I'm seeing in many communities and what I'm reading about a lot through organizations like Argentum and the leading age organizations in the state, where we work with and present presentations throughout the year. Culture change in one shape or form seems to be almost a given with how you address expectations of seniors and adult children. So many are able to offer flexible wake times, which means if your resident doesn't want to eat breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning and they want to sleep till 10, that's fine. Flexible dining times, the menu options and the food quality needs to be more, again, of what they've been used to in their homes. Talked about the programming, and I've talked about a little bit about the volunteer interest. So the more you can collaborate with your community at large, you have that opportunity to bring more of those volunteers in, so that it's not going to cost you anything, as far as it's not going to be hit to your bottom line to really get the programming up to a level where you need it to be to make a difference in people's lives and to have another reason for them to think about moving from their home to your community. So this is an example of one community that underwent the action-packed, person-centered care renovation process with the community kitchens and dining spaces. So again, if you're able to do this, I'm not saying this is what's possible for everyone, look at what a difference this makes in someone's life. So the for-profits who are doing this, they're popping up everywhere. They've got a handle on how things should look. And I think we just need to pay attention to what's coming down the road, because the next generation is not going to really be appreciative of sharing a room with someone, or even sharing a bathroom with someone for that matter, and going down the hall into a large shower room that doesn't feel very private. And again, this is just an example of what a larger private suite will look like with a nice larger bathroom off to the side. If you're not able to, based on budget constraints or the age of your building, to really undergo a large renovation project, you can offer things that will enhance your apartments, your suites, to your private pay nursing prospect, or even your rehab prospect, to show that you have a dated product. As these rooms turn over, people can be offered customization options to really make their space feel like home. This is an example of one community that I was working with in New York, and they had the same situation. They had 456 skilled nursing beds in an older building that they were in the process of making some renovations, but their private pay numbers were really low. And so in order to attract that private pay resident, we offered 4 suite enhancements that they could choose from when they moved in. Now, I'm not saying that every person who moved in made a choice about changing the decor of their room, but just having the option to choose and have some say in their life at the point where they think they have no choice made such a difference. So on to rehab, which is really your front door to future missions, both for assisted living and for long-term care. What I hear a lot in things I read and just from my current clients is people are choosing to return home for rehab. It's been really difficult to get those people to come to a community, a retirement community for rehab. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but that's where we are today. There are rehab clinics that are popping up. We have hotels that are popping up. And then we talked about the household model with the person-centered care, the pictures I showed you before, where they're building neighborhoods with a doorbell. So when someone comes to visit you in your rehab, in your short-term rehab setting, they ring a doorbell to enter your neighborhood. So it feels very much like home. It feels very much like what you might have experienced in your own house. This is an example of the rehab hotel I was talking about, one community in New Jersey. And the length they went to really attract that rehab guest. You can see the desk in this apartment as well. So when someone chooses your community for rehab, that's the only introduction they might have to what life might be like in your community. So what they experience in your rehab really sticks in their mind as to what would happen possibly if they would return maybe for assisted living or for skilled nursing in the future. So they're going to remember that experience, and they're also going to remember the surroundings if they had their own, if they were located in a neighborhood of other like rehab people, or if they were scattered throughout a skilled nursing hallway where there were long-term residents who might have some issues of calling out or wandering, things like that. So it's really important to put your best foot forward when you have your rehab guests enter your community. And again, the flexible meal times, and even many communities are going to flexible rehab times. It takes a little bit of scheduling, but this is really important for attracting business from competing rehab, either the hotels or the on-site hospital rehab. So you've got to find a way to really stand out and go that extra mile to really get that customer service feeling for your guests when they're there. I think private suites are pretty much expected with rehab. And when I say visit guests, we've developed some rehab concierge programs where a member of the admissions team will visit your rehab guests once a week just for 10 or 15 minutes, ask how their stay is, ask if the pain is being treated okay, ask how the food is, and then really make sure that they have that follow-up plan when they leave for home so you can really reduce your hospital readmission rates. And this is really just another form of marketing what you do. You're meeting every day with different guests for a short amount of time, and depending on how large your rehab is, this may take more than one person. But you're building a relationship with them, and you're documenting all of your activity in your CRM, so you really know there are people that you could possibly follow up with in the next week or two, or even those who might call you in the next month or two and ask for more information about another one of your levels of living. These people are going to talk, and your word-of-mouth experience is going to be so positive for their families and their friends, and you're going to gain a lot of free marketing just from your rehab guests. So I hear a lot, too, about how hard it is to find, attract, and keep staffing. And you have your nurse aides and even your housekeeping staff. Everyone who comes into contact with your residents, this is not any news to you, need to be treated with extreme customer service. So that means going above and beyond what's expected. So in order to do that, you have to hire the right team to get you to that next level. And so you want to be seen as a place where people want to come to work because you have that extra step. You go beyond what is expected. So attracting that person to you because of what you do will be so important in making sure that you can offer something that your competition cannot. We like to suggest an adult children visit for a pre-stay tour. There's nothing wrong with looking at your rehab before their loved one may come. Obviously, this is something they would be doing with assisted living or skilled nursing. And then make sure you have one of your team members follow up with guests 3 days after discharge to make sure that, again, they're following up with their appointments and their medications are prescribed, and make sure that they have the support they need so that you can reduce those hospital readmissions. So what are hospitals looking for in a partnership with the retirement community? Let's get to the really tough part here. It's so hard to get into the hospital's door. Obviously, you can visit residents, and that's a good way to get your foot in the door. You can evaluate potential resident referrals. Once you're there, I think the thing you need to do is focus on how you can really build those relationships and start having conversations about the referrals and CEU events. You need to make sure you can tell a data story about what makes you attractive. And these are the elements that we use in our data stories, quality outcomes. You can read these here on the screen. So gathering this information and keeping it current is a good leave behind for you to put on maybe a template sheet that matches your brand. So you can show through data why you are a good choice for a referral from a hospital. So you're using these referral tools to communicate. You want to make sure that you tell your data story and understand their pain points. Are you flexible in your admission time frames? Are you willing to work with them on transportation, equipment, and paperwork? The social workers, I think, anymore expect our communities to really do the work that they used to do. They just don't take the time to do what they should do. And so our team members end up really being that pseudo social worker and getting all these things arranged. So have conversations about what's important to them and how you can help them. And also be aware of any myths. Sometimes, especially with communities who've been around a long time, myths creep out there every so often. So be aware of what's being said and be prepared to dispel them. And one thing I really want to strongly enforce is when you communicate that you're full one day, people tend to think that, okay, you're full, how long are you full? So even if you're full one day doesn't mean you're not full the next. Your census is full. So we suggest that you say on a certain day you don't have a bed available, because saying you're full just puts people in the mind that you're not taking any new admissions. It's a small point, but it's very important. So this clinical person that you're having do your outreach, he is in your hospital setting every day. What kind of qualifications should he or she have? They need to have a skill set to really communicate clinically with those physicians and discharge planners. So it has to be a clinical professional. And it's not always easy to find someone who has clinical background who also has the ability to form relationships with team members to really get to the bottom of why they should change your referral patterns to start making them to your community. They want to be able to assess the potential residents and really serve as a spokesperson to articulate the results of the data analysis on behalf of your community. One thing that I want to point out here is people are being referred from the hospital somewhere. So your relationship strategy should really focus on what you're specializing in. Do you have a CHF program you're specializing in, or do you specialize in orthopedic? Where are those hospital discharges going? They're going somewhere. How can you get those discharges, referral patterns changed to come to your community? And make sure that you're aware of any future growth plans for your hospitals as well. This could be something like rehab. And you need to know and be able to communicate these strengths and weaknesses. It's not always easy to talk about what your weaknesses are, but hiding behind them doesn't really help move your referral source past them. You need to know, obviously, your outcomes, your admission rates, and your star rating for those who are not fortunate right now, maybe to realize a 4 or 5 star rating. Maybe you're working with a 2 or a 3. Be aware of how you can talk to the elements that really are comprising that star rating, because there are things that you're doing really well, and focus your attention on those and break it down for your referral source so they really understand what that rating is made up of. And this could be sometimes important too with your adult children, because they're on the internet now looking and evaluating star ratings just because it's been brought to the attention to the general public. So have the ammunition you need to really speak to those, and don't hide behind those. Many communities are looking at, or hospitals are looking at, the bundle payment programs and the ACO development. You can find out through innovation.cms.gov who's involved in bundle payments if you're looking to partner with a hospital for those, and decide really what's going to be your niche. You don't need to be everything to everyone, but you do need to really focus on one or two niche services that you're really good at and promote those. And just obviously, as you know, because you're in a bundle payment program, doesn't mean you're going to get all the referrals. It just means that you and maybe 6 other competitors are a group of people or of communities who will get those referrals. So you still have to work hard at getting the referrals. So what about a strategy for physicians? It's a little bit different, because getting in front of a physician is really difficult. And I'm not saying that's going to happen when you go to a physician office, but the office manager is a little easier to talk with. And gone are the days, just like at the hospitals, of walking in with lunch or cookies or treats or fun packaging, some fun themed gifts that used to really be all you needed to start developing that relationship. Now you really have to talk about the data. You have to figure out who's referring to your community. Go after that list of physicians and see who could refer more. Who are your historic salary referrers? And who are your attending physicians referring to? Do you need to consider offering prehab? So this would be for outpatient rehab that would strengthen someone who's older prior to surgery to make their rehab more productive after the surgery. When you're talking with the office managers, they want to know what your outcomes are. Like I said, they want to know why they should consider your community, and they may just not even know the services that you offer because they get into like a referral pattern where they just don't change for whatever reason. So having the conversation about what services you specialize in provides the physician with information to have a discussion with the people who are having an elective surgery, and they can choose a community before they even go to the hospital. And this is where you can really see some referral patterns change, because if you can get that potential resident who's having an elective surgery to commit to rehab at your community, that's just one step you've taken before they actually get to the hospital. Your work is done, and their peace of mind is at a much better level. So when we talk with physicians, they want to know what happens when I refer my patient to you. A lot of communities have developed the electronic medical record where physicians can see the medical record, they can follow their progress, especially with bundle payments or ACOs with hospitals. Everyone's able to really analyze and evaluate the medical record and get their questions answered just electronically. But even, for example, if there's a physician that you know is hesitant to refer someone to you, and you go back to their office with a story and say, we know you were hesitant to refer Mrs. Smith to us. Let me tell you what happened once we got her. Here's how her rehab progressed. Here's her outcomes. This is how we managed her pain. Just give them some stories. Give them some good examples of outcomes, because they want to know, and no one else is going to tell them. So you have to build that relationship, and it takes a long time to build that. It's not going to happen overnight. So we'll talk about this a little later too, but you're going to need an outreach plan and a tactical plan to really focus on strategies for hospitals and physicians, and even for assisted living. And I'm sure this is something that you're all probably doing, but I find that in many instances, communities who really focus on assisted living and outreach, I'm not saying you should track your admissions from rehab or long-term care in a CRM, but tracking activities with outreach referral sources and obviously your assisted living activity helps you measure your performance and really see where you're getting the best bang for your buck. And without that, you really have just an idea in your mind about what you think is working, but until you really track it and analyze your data, you don't really have a good idea of knowing exactly where you're getting the best bang for your buck. So here's some tools for success, and people don't always, I see in CCRC or in the life plan communities, I see a lot of attention focused on independent living collateral. I don't see a lot, and sometimes assisted living, I don't see a lot of that with skilled nursing and rehab. I'm not saying you need a large brochure, but you need something that you can give to people, prospects or referral sources or adult children, that shows who you are and what your positioning is with your brand and how they can relate what they see in paper, just like with independent living, to what you can provide. You need to show survey information about customer service. You need to show data. Like I said, you need to measure activity, evaluate your referrals. So an example of that would be if you're a larger community, you're looking at maybe 80 referrals a day, and you're taking maybe 5. What are the other 75 that are coming to you? And can you be more selective about getting that less acute person in the door instead of having 5 acute referrals every day? Maybe getting that more desirable private pay long-term stay person. So just like, again, being an order taker, just taking what you're getting from referrals doesn't help you with your case mix. It doesn't help you really be proactive. It just means you're sitting there taking whatever the hospitals are giving you. But when you have that relationship with case managers, you can really start to see where the referrals are going and really what you're getting. So you really need to evaluate what you're getting and what different types of patients you could be getting and should be getting. So briefly for assisted living, in this, we believe that outreach for assisted living is very important, not to the level that it is for skilled long-term care, because we don't believe one person needs to be doing full-time outreach on a daily basis like we do for the higher levels of care. It doesn't mean it's not important. And anything depending on your census, if you don't have a lot of activity or traffic, you would be doing more outreach than you would if you have a higher census. But these 5 targeted groups are really what we focus on, not saying that in different markets you might find different opportunities, but churches and talking with your residents and knowing what churches there are or were members from to get your foot in the door there. The pharmacists are talking every day to our seniors, and a lot of them are, they're on many medications. So what do they know about your community? What do they get questions? What couldn't they really say about who you are? Home care is an obvious referral at some point when the person is no longer able to stay in their home. The financial planners and the elder law attorneys, they're having conversations with your prospects all the time. And what do they really know about you? So getting in front of them, inviting them to speak at your community, just really sharing what you have to offer with them. And this does not have to be an hour-long meeting. This can be a quick 15, 20 minutes if, you've got to pay attention to how much time they're going to give you. But having some information about you is better than nothing. So I don't think you should set an expectation that you're going to spend an hour or longer with all these referral sources. It's just the point of being consistent and providing good, accurate information, the information they need to really share with their prospects. Now, while this is not an assisted living outreach approach, I just made a note here that you never can underestimate the value of home visits. And for obvious reasons, you know what those are. You're in their homes, you can see the situation they're living in. Is it clean? Once you're in someone's home and you have an opportunity to really meet them and spend time with them. And here's where I would spend at least an hour or more with someone in their home. They're going to want to serve you maybe tea and cookies or whatever. Once you are in their home, you are way more likely to get a next step from them as far as them coming to see your community on a tour or even a deposit, whatever the case may be. But going to someone's home, it's almost like they've allowed you in their door, and so they know you took the time to come and see them. They're going to almost, it's like a reciprocity factor. They're going to feel like they owe you something. And that's not the reason why we're doing it, but it just is how it happens. So I know it takes time away from your day. I know it takes time to go see these people. And you're probably doing this anyway when you're evaluating them, but I'm saying do this as a first visit. If they won't come to you, offer to go to them. So an outreach plan. I find that many communities just haven't taken the time to develop a tactical outreach plan. I'm not talking about a plan on just where am I going to go each day without having any goals in mind. I'm talking about what you're going to be talking about when you're meeting with these different groups and organizations. And there are different strategies for each one. So like we talked about the church, you want to include your residents, possibly. Take one of them with you. This is if you would have maybe like your more active assisted living or even your independent living resident who could join you. We talked about how the pharmacists just want to be informed and covered the rest of these. So for this hospital strategy, you want to have a reason for that visit. If you're doing something for them, again, they're going to want to do something for you. The reciprocity factor is huge. And what does that doctor really need from you? They want to know what your data is. They want to know what your outcomes are. They want to know if you have a specialty niche. CEU events are always really good strategies because everyone needs to see CEUs. I know online is becoming a little bit competitive with that, but they still like the socialization. I think that's still something that's very important, whether it's at the hospital or in your community. And then make sure that your outreach person is aware of the developing opportunities for the coalitions, ACOs, or bundle payments, because that information is important for them to share with your leadership so that conversations can begin in developing any opportunities. So the difference again between a tactical outreach plan and an outreach plan is an outreach plan gives you overall general ideas about what you should do. A tactical plan lays out week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, what your plan is for each day, where you can actually monitor and evaluate the results. And the results are then entered into your CRM. So for example, one day, based on a geographic area, and based on whether this is like a SNF visit or assisted living, you would want to sit down with your team and plan what they would do each day, what their goals are, what are your expected outcomes, what do you want to achieve from your visit. It's not about a social visit. It's not about going there and saying hi and dropping off cookies. It's a strategy. So having a tactical plan makes sure that you can hold your team accountable for what they're doing on a daily and weekly basis, and then measuring the results with your admissions and your referral numbers, and what kind of people are coming to you through the referral channels. And I think I just mentioned all these items on this slide. Manage your time wisely. You want to make sure that you have a good plan so you're not jumping all over the place back and forth. And then be aware of what outreach tools you need. So again, these are simple tools. These are not costly tools. These are maybe like a trifold brochure or a single sheet to leave behind that really shows the information that you want to share so they can refer to it in the future. And tracking results. The reason I mentioned tracking your denials, you always want to know why someone wasn't approved. Was it because your community chose not to approve them, or was it because someone else beat you to the punch? And I guess that's not really a denial, but that's a lost opportunity. But to make it simple, what are you taking in and what are you not? What are you not approving, or what are you missing out on? And then really analyze that data every month. So people don't really think about marketing plans either for your higher levels of care. Now, assisted living is a little different because you do have a longer sales process for assisted living. So it is important. I think people do think about how you can really attract the adult child in the prospect and keep your activity numbers up so you're filling your funnel like you would with independent living. But for skilled nursing, people don't really think about marketing to adult children. And so I'm going to talk about why that is important. Your prospect and your adult child are your target. And obviously, what your product maybe is offering today and what it should be in the future. So based on the information, the feedback that your admissions team is gathering, how are you sharing that with your management team? And are you doing your job in making sure that they're aware of the barriers that you're hearing? And how can you make enhancements to really be competitive in your product? And I'm not saying everyone should go out and have a complete renovation process started, but there are always things you can do to make your product more appealing. And then positioning, how do you compare? What's your pricing strategy? How do your fees compare? I know you would do this in your normal budget process, but really think about it from a positioning standpoint. If you are one of those organizations that has that shared room and shared bathroom and your pricing is a little higher than someone who may not, that could be an issue. And then again, how you evaluate your referral patterns. So the four tactics that we look at for marketing plan, this is for longer term care and skilled nursing and assisted living, would be digital, because where do adult children go for information? To the internet. They're out there looking at websites, doing their homework, gathering information, and trying to determine which 2 or 3 they might go for a visit. Then when they visit, they're going to go back to their loved one and bring them back for a visit. So they're doing all their information gathering online. They're not going to wait for you to send a brochure to them in the mail. They're going to want a digital copy of that brochure on your website. So the expectations of adult children with how we market has also shifted. Public relations would be for social media, blogs, and things like that. Print advertising is important if it's informational and you're promoting an incentive or a new or innovative product, but otherwise we wouldn't recommend it. And then direct mail, again, mostly used for adult child events for assisted living. Would not recommend that for skilled. Just a few comments on your positioning. Know who you are and what you are, and what's your long-term vision, and what's going to enable you to grow. And do you have that brand that can grow with you? And this is important when you think about long-term and assisted living. So that branding tends to be put to the side a lot, and I don't see the same attention focus there as it should be, as it is with the rest of the organization. So this is an example of a brand at one of our communities that we were working with compared to what they decided to move ahead with as an enhanced brand. So you can see the portrayal of a building as a lifestyle is not near as enticing as lifestyle photos. Now this shows you what we mean by the digital marketing. So you're going to want to make sure that whatever you use, whatever mode you use to develop your website and your mobile marketing is readable on all your devices. So many times what looks good on your computer does not flow through well on one of your smaller devices. So this image is just to make sure that you're consistent with your messaging and that all the information looks the same on all your devices. Social media has been a great way to really get in front of people. There are benefits to search engine optimization and how we can really do some retargeting for digital marketing. There are things like squeeze pages you can move people toward instead of making them go through your whole entire website if you're targeting someone for a specific event, or if you're looking to reach someone who has a question about information, an information kit. So there are so many different ways of marketing to the adult child and the prospect digitally, that blogs, e-newsletters, that's really where we're focusing on. And I'm saying this because you may think that it's not important for rehab or even skilled nursing, but it is, because people are on the internet looking for options. And while word of mouth is still probably the number one way that people will choose to start their search, they're going to see through social media and digital advertising how effectively you communicate your message to that adult child in that way. Now, when you develop a blog, and many people are like, yes, we'll do a blog, that's a great idea. It has to be consistent. So having a blog once every 6 months pop up on your website is really not going to get you what you need. You need to be consistent with a monthly blog. It will optimize your search on Google. I mean, there's lots of great reasons for that. But whatever you plan to commit to social media, PR, and integrated media services, commit to it. Having like a calendar, we develop content calendars for people. So they'll have a monthly schedule of what the blog topics will be each month. And the blog topics can easily be transformed into an e-newsletter. That's just one other way of communicating to either your current database and a direct mail purchase list. So I've left some time for some questions. And before I get to those, I just wanted to make sure that I let you know that we are offering like a one-day healthcare census assessment to everyone who's listening to the webinar today, and you can access that at the link I'm showing here. It's like a promotional, like a summer, fall promotional that we're doing, and you can also reach me at my email address here for any more information about what that might be. So that's a little plug for the assessment. And I have my colleague Erin on the phone with me to help me with any questions that might have come up that we can talk about now.
Thanks, Chris. I think I sent you over a couple questions already that we had coming in that we can probably cover before our 2 o'clock end time comes up in a few minutes. So I'm going to let you take it from there.
All right. And if you have questions now that the webinar is over, feel free to continue to send those in. I do have a couple of them here, but feel free to send those over as well. So one of the questions I had was, what CRM would you recommend using? And that's a tough question because right now we're evaluating a lot of the newer ones that are coming online. We used to be really kind of tied into reps, and everything's changing with that system. So a lot of my clients are going toward point-click care, and I know firsthand that you can really track the outreach activity in that CRM very nicely. The activities through the sales process isn't quite there yet. They're still making some enhancements, so I can't really speak to that. But if you want to send me an email, I can let you know what the results of our CRM evaluation is when that's complete. And then another question was, how long does it usually take to see results from the outreach activity that you develop with your physician relationships? So I would say it kind of depends on how many referrals you're getting from them already. If they already have a good channel of referrals you've seen over the last, I would say, year, the likelihood of getting more referrals from them for other specialty areas would happen faster. But this is not a fast process. This is something that I can say will take, in this case, the best guess, 3 to 6 months to really make a mark on how you can really shift referral patterns because you already have a relationship with them. Alternatively, if you really are working from the ground up, this could be something that you have to work on. And again, depends on the physician for at least a year. So this doesn't happen quickly, but the results that you'll see from your work will eventually happen. So you will see results. It's just like it took you a long time to kind of realize that this is something that maybe should have been done a while ago. So it's going to take a while to kind of build up to the level that you need to really start seeing a shift in referrals.
Chris, we have another question coming in here.
Okay.
So we have an asker saying early on you spoke of expectations, i.e. quality of care, good food, socialization, etc. Did you list those in the order of importance or significance, or was that just kind of a group you were?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So I did say that the adult-child expectation, the number one was lifestyle. But other than that, I did not group them in any kind of order of importance. I was just showing what the number one was with the adult child. But no, I mean, after that, really, when I try and drill down a little farther, there isn't really, they all kind of get to where they feel like they're all important, and I don't really have any sense of a numbering system after that as far as important.
Okay. Let's see, we're getting a couple questions in about the slide presentation being available after the webinar. Yes, we record this and it will be posted on our site probably early next week in its entirety. So you can visit our website. We have a webinars link there, and it should be the first one listed at the top. Let's see.
And the site is loveandcompany.com.
.com/webinars.
Yes.
It's really short. Okay, let's see. Do you have a recommendation as to how many sales and/or admission folks and organization employs per resident, i.e., how many sales folks per 100 residents?
So we don't really, it depends on, I'm assuming these are, maybe the person who asked the question can write back and say, is this skilled nursing or is this assisted living? Because it depends on what level of care it is. But it depends on where you are with your census. So if you're building census and you need to go from 80 to 100, I would look at your existing staffing pattern and say, who do you have to help you with the admission process? Who's doing the paperwork? Who's doing the outreach? Who's getting the room set up? Do you have like someone who's coordinating the moves? Those type of things all come into play. If you're maintaining census, it's one thing. If you're growing census, it's another. But I still think, if you, an average, like we say an average amount of activity that we would suggest for one person would be 1 tour a day or 5 tours a week. And the amount of calls that we expect someone to really be making to prospects and follow-up for assisted living on an average would be 5 to 7 a day for assisted living, because you don't have as many leads as you would for independent living coming through your door, because that time frame of that decision-making process is shorter. I don't know if there was a response about if that was assisted or skilled.
Yeah, he says it's a whole continuum. IL, AL, and skilled is 600 people total.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would be happy to have an offline conversation about that or in an email, because there are so many other factors that really make up the recommendation that we would provide. So I'd be happy to have an offline conversation about that.
Okay, he will email you. And I
Great.
think we're at 1:59. We're at 2 o'clock now, and that is the end of our questions.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.